Today we're going to be debunking. I can't believe I said that. Great opener. We're going to be debunking is what I meant. Some fitness advice. The cool thing about this episode is that I actually have no idea what we're doing because I know that we're debunking fitness advice that you guys would have heard that is either true or maybe a myth. But Roberta has actually put this episode together and she has some little pieces of paper with the different advice that we're going to draw out of. It was meant to be a hat, but what is that? Draw out a pencil holder. We're going to draw it out of a pen holder.
You're right. You actually have no idea what's on here. I could have just like written really wacky stuff on here and you don't know what it is.
I wouldn't put it past you.
It's like you open it, it's like, oh, you know, I don't know. The joke was going nowhere. Delete this.
Anyway, moving on. So yeah, we're going to debunk some advice. So you guys are going to learn some things today, but I'm actually excited for the fact that we have no idea. Like Maddie and I have no idea what's coming. So it's going to be nice to kind of like chat on these things more casually as well.
Hopefully you can decipher my handwriting.
It's just like, what does this word
You'll
mean?
lose weight if you eat whole foods.
Can you say that again?
You'll lose weight if you eat whole foods.
Okay, well, that one is obviously a myth. I think a lot of people do not understand the difference between like clean eating versus, you know, like being in an actual calorie deficit. And we hear all the time, right? Like, because we speak to a lot of clients, a lot of people before they become clients in our DMs and just on calls and things like that. And from my perspective, one of the biggest things I notice, not just with our clients, but a lot of the potential clients we speak to, they go, oh, I'm eating really well, but I'm not seeing results. Or I'm eating really clean through the week, but the weekend I don't eat clean. And I think that's what's getting me off track. And it's just this real black and white of I have to eat clean to see results, which is just not the case at all.
Yeah, I think it also comes down to what you're eating for. Now, when it comes to, obviously, whole foods are fantastic for you. You know, they're going to fuel your body the way that, you know, nutrition is meant to. But also you need to keep in mind that if you have a specific goal, you need to eat for that goal. And it's not about how clean you're eating, but it's about, you know, like you said, being in a calorie deficit and understanding your intake and whether that's appropriate for your goal.
Yeah, I think health is one goal on its own, but then physique is a completely different thing. And that's where people need to understand the difference, which is if I want to focus on health, focus on fueling my body properly, clean eating, great, go for it, as long as it doesn't become so far all or nothing that you then demonize other foods. But then at the same time, it's okay, if I have physique goals, that's a total different ballgame.
Yeah, I think people forget that whole foods have calories in them as well.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, this avocado, like it's great. It's a great source of fat, nutrients, all of that stuff. But they'll have like half, like a full half or a whole one and forget that that's more calories than they think.
Yeah, like that's 400 or 500 calories.
Yeah,
in
like
avocado
that's a calorie deficit and eating whole foods. Like you should be eating whole foods in a calorie deficit, but a calorie deficit is math and science.
Yeah.
Like that's literally, they're so different.
And the other thing is too, a lot of the whole foods that you guys think are the fat loss foods, they're the ones that carry the most
Like
calories.
almonds, walnuts.
Like nuts and seeds, healthy fats. Like we hear all the time about healthy fats, which carry the most amount of calories. Your avocados, your seed oils, your nut oils, all those things. Roberta has a bone to pick with seed oils.
I just think it's like it's like what are you prioritizing? What are you focusing on? And is it fitting to where you want to be, what your goal's going to be? Also, I think another element of this is like if you're constantly focusing on whole foods and, you know, in the way of obsessing and thinking that's where it's going to get you, that often leads to a period of, you know, restriction with other certain types of foods. And, you know, that can lead to your all or nothing where you restrict yourself from, you know, cutting out complete sugar or cutting out carbs or processed foods or whatever it is you're cutting out, and then, you know, going ham on it when you finally get a little bit.
Which is a problem because then the consistency, which is the main thing, is what people lack.
So like basically whole foods, great. Not the same as a calorie deficit, guys.
100%. That was perfect. All right, you go next.
Are you going to pick one out at all?
I'll pick one out.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so this one is you need to sweat heaps or be sore for a workout to count.
Actually, that's true, guys.
No, but a lot of people do think this is true. I have heard from new clients of ours, but also, once again, a lot of women that we speak to, because my job in the business has changed. I do work with clients, but my job is mainly, my job mainly is doing the marketing and the sales and social media and all of those things, and obviously business management. But what that equals is having conversations with women online who are wanting to learn more about what we do or needing help and needing advice. And I connect with a lot of women that way. And I'm telling you now, like probably 80% of the women that I speak to at some point in their lives or currently think that if they're not sweating or they're not working if they're not sweating or they're not sore, they're not working hard enough, and that's why they're not reaching their goals. But your soreness and the amount you sweat doesn't equal the results, especially if you're someone like me. Like, I don't actually sweat. Like, I'm not a sweater.
I sweat like a motherfucker. I sweat sitting.
Yeah,
like,
and see, this is the thing. It's that's genetics as
yeah,
well.
it's not that. Yeah, because exactly, it's not an indicator of how effective your workout was. Because we do get clients saying, "Oh, I didn't sweat. It felt kind of easy." It's like, okay, well, if it felt easy, did you push yourself hard enough? But at the same time, sweat and being sore, they're not the same thing as efficiency.
No, I would argue that once again, like the amount you sweat comes down to the type of training you're doing and also your genetics. Because as you said, you're a sweater. Like, I don't sweat. I've never dripped in sweat. It's just I've never been through that. The other thing is too, right? It's like your level of soreness. I would say if you're constantly sore, that's not an indicator of a good workout. That's an indicator of shit recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you'll be sore from, a bunch of different things. And a lot of the time, if you're increasing training volume, if you're, if you haven't trained for a while or you're changing the mode that you're training at, that's going to lead to, yes, you being sore. But once you do it often enough, your body's going to recover a lot better. It's going to adapt to that level of training. So you're not going to be as sore as you were, let's say, if you didn't train and you started training again.
Yeah.
So it's just keeping in mind, what's the purpose behind your training session? If the purpose is to get sweaty, then, you need to have a look at what the purpose and why you think that is and why you think that's an indicator of, a successful training session. Otherwise, like, you can go and do a hot Pilates class or a sauna Pilates class. Go stand in the sun and you get sweaty. Like, is that the purpose of, what was the purpose behind you doing that? Like, did you, if the purpose is you getting your heart rate up, then there's other methods of tracking that.
Yeah.
If is the purpose like training hard and, inducing enough muscle stimulus, then you need to look at what your training was and whether that achieved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just education over time. Like, we've all been there. These things we're covering already, the two things are things I used to believe.
Oh yeah,
So,
same.
Yeah. I mean, I get sore. If I start, I'll do like an 8-week block. Week 1, I'm doing it. I'll be sore. I'll be so sore. Barely can walk.
Well, that's
And
new
it's
exercise.
regardless of how-
The other 7 weeks. And I've been training since I was 17.
Yeah.
So soreness is never going to go away, but it's also, not an indicator of, it's an indicator of your body is doing something it's not used to
Yeah.
rather than efficiency.
Yeah. I'll take my next one. It is, don't eat carbs past 9 p.m. or you'll put on weight.
That one's actually a big one that people have believed or do believe.
Yeah.
I actually remember, I don't know how many years ago it was now, but I do remember there was a whole, I don't know if it was a trend or a whole thing that went out about like, don't eat carbs past 6 p.m. And I remember there was like a lot of women who would say that they would not eat pasta or rice or bread or carbs at all after 6 p.m. I want to say hilariously, it's not hilarious, but I couldn't think of another word. Ironically, that's a much better word. That's more sensitive to this. But ironically, a lot of the foods they said they were eating were still carb-filled foods. They just didn't know it. Because a lot of the times people think carbs, bread, rice, pasta, those things. They forget that like your fruit and veg are sources of carbs, and anything with sugars carry carbohydrates. In terms of, do I have to cut carbs full stop? No. And once again, if you're looking at, if you want to lose weight, it's not about the types of foods you're eating. It's actually about the amount of food you're eating. So if you're eating a shit ton of carbs and you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not going to see progress. But if you're eating a little bit of carbs and you're in a calorie deficit, you will see progress.
Likewise, I think even if, let's just say your goal isn't fat loss, your goal is just to exist and stay at the same baseline. So obviously be in maintenance. Like, let's just say you eat all your calories at the end of the day versus if you spread them out throughout the day. Obviously, it's more optimal to have them spread out throughout the day just because of energy and just hormonal balance in total. But it doesn't mean that if you're going to leave them all for one part of the day, it doesn't mean you're magically going to put on weight because after 9 p.m. that's what happens.
Well, the thing is, right, even you saying that, if you visually look at it and you think about it, it's the same outcome regardless. Like if you, let's just say you had 3 or 4 meals and you ate them at, 6 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 p.m. and 6 p.m., for example, or you ate them all after 9, the outcome's the same. It's still the same amount of food.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
A piece of bread's calories doesn't triple after 9 p.m.
I will say there hasn't been one study where it's like it shows that there's like the smallest infinitesimal difference.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes,
yeah.
but however, it is so small that across the board of all the other factors that lead to weight gain versus staying the same, it is such a small, such a minute detail that if that's the thing you're stressing about, you need to look at the large variety of other factors of why weight gain is possible.
I actually saw that study, or at least something similar, and they said that because they were talking about how you then go to sleep, and it had something to do with like your sleep and the lack of activity over that time so that you then store fat. But you're right, like it wasn't anywhere near enough to actually showcase that was the case.
Guys, please eat carbs. They're the main source of energy.
Yeah.
Agreed. Go next.
Cardio HIIT is bad for women.
Have you heard this one?
I have heard this one. Okay, so look, I am going to just say something and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, okay? Cardio and HIIT is not bad for anyone. Cardio in general is really important for cardiovascular health, which is going to be your fitness and your endurance and your ability to have a healthy heart. Very important. And even though I personally don't love cardio, and the only cardio I would do is like walking, if you would even call it that, I only strength train, I do still think it's important for people to have some level of cardio. And walking is actually enough. Now, this being said, I do think though, and I have seen studies on the fact that doing HIIT workouts repeatedly over time, especially when they're intense HIIT workouts, time in, time out, they can have some problems. And I know Maddie's going to deep dive into this because she's an exercise physiologist, but in terms of injury, in terms of recovery, and also in terms of general health of the body and the joints. Now, I'm going to let you take the floor because I know you're going to have a little bit more to say on that.
It's more that, of course, circuit training, HIIT training, great for power and short bursts and not endurance, but the ability, you can get stronger, you can get fitter from these things. But from a perspective of a female, our bodies are so sensitive and everything impacts our hormones, absolutely everything. So if you are, and coupled with all the trends of like fasting workouts, not eating afterwards, not eating your carbs, even after training, you're messing with your system so much that it is throwing your hormones so far out of whack and your body does not feel safe.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you don't think that if you think you're doing all of these things and not seeing results, or eating tiny amounts and not seeing results, your body doesn't feel safe and it is not going to let go of anything that you have until you make it feel a bit more safe. And that's what HIIT is doing. It's putting it into a stress response, and it's going so far the other way that when it's recovering, it's still not recovering enough, and then you're doing it again. So whilst I don't disagree that, I think that you can do it. You just have to be smart about it.
I think it's the level of volume. And I love what you brought up about the hormones, because this is the thing when, you know, we're talking about your recovery, your ability to progress, your injury, like this all comes back to how efficiently your body can adapt to this style of training. And this is actually why I know F45 is not a really big thing anymore, but if you go back through the information that was released around F45, and I'm only using them as an example because there's many studios that do this, they actually showcased how many people were getting injured doing that style of training. And I know that that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people left that space.
That comes from a negligence in terms of coaches as well.
True. That's very true.
But yes, high impact training, especially because the people doing F45 aren't just 20-year-olds with healthy bodies. Sometimes they swing so far the other way. It can be 40 to 55-year-olds that don't train but love it for the social connection, which I completely understand. But their bodies are not used to doing that. And then all of a sudden you're box jumping and snatching and overhead pressing and back squatting and doing things that your body has never done before, and that puts you more at risk. And even like the 20-year-olds, form and technique was never a priority for them. It was just getting in, getting out as quick as possible. So
yeah, agreed with all that. What's your take on it?
Mine's the same as that. And also I think obviously because you would be much more well versed in that, but from my understanding, it's kind of about what you said, you need to be adapted to that mode of training. Let's say you're an athlete and you are a female, and cardio hit is a way to improve your sport and athleticism. Like, that's obviously makes a lot of sense, but you've also put in the work, and you obviously would also be doing this under hopefully well regulated circumstances. So the likelihood of you having implications from that versus Gen Pop is going to be so different.
Yeah, it's for athletes' case, like they're doing everything else right as well.
Yep.
Gen Pop
their
think
stress
that
response is going to be lower.
Gen Pop, they go, oh, this is the answer, and then they're not doing anything else to support that.
That's such a good
Yeah,
point.
sleep, mobility, nutrition, everything like that, which is supporting the athletes into being able to recover and do these things properly.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Then when you mix, and I'm just throwing it out there, but when you mix, and I used to work at one, but there are studios that do hit under altitude, which is like a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah.
Because people try and bring in all of these like fancy ways to get people in the door.
Yeah.
And then when you look at like now you're doing hit with low oxygen,
I'm surprised people haven't been sued.
I will
yet, to be honest.
probably die on that hill.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
Love that.
With oxygen.
I like that there's no black and white sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Also, did I read the last one?
No, Maddie did.
Oh. My one is heavy lifting leads to injuries.
Only if you're doing it
Only
incorrectly.
if you're an idiot, to be honest. Only if you're not progressively overloading properly.
Yeah, but also what about people who don't have the right technique?
And don't have the right technique. I understand. I've been injured. Steph's been injured. Roberta's currently injured.
Not from strength training,
Not from strength
might
training.
I add.
Actually, what did you do again?
Oztag.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, ACL. But it's important for people to not just go to the gym, especially if they're not versed in the gym, and just pick up weights.
Yeah.
Now, I'm all for pushing yourself with weights, but we need to make sure form and technique are there. And we also, I just think like ego lifting is it's something that bothers me so much because I see it so often.
Yeah, but I also think like you work with injuries in your EP job, right? So like for you, you'd be more sensitive to it. Whereas even for Roberta and I, it's also, we're still like, whoa, we need to relax this. But I just think you've probably seen some shit.
So can I ask, do you work with Gen Pop or more athletes?
So Gen Pop.
So in your case, the percentage of people that come in injured from strength training versus percentage of people that come in that don't strength train.
They're injured because they're not strength training?
So so my current job role is people who are injured and are unable to work because of it. But so it's never really 20-year-olds. It's always 30, 45 plus, and it's not always musculoskeletal. But with the musculoskeletal ones that I do see, like an ACL, these people might strength train, they might not strength train, but it's just about...
Is it the way they're doing
it? And in my head, it's like, okay, with Robbo, I was saying your hamstrings are too strong compared to your quads. That's why you injured yourself. And it's about knowing these little things. And I understand that this is a nuance that I will get that most people don't get, but it's about knowing that you need to be doing everything equally and properly in order to mitigate the risk of injuring yourself. Yeah. Because if you just go and chuck heaps of weight on a bar and then try and pick it up, like...
Well, I guess that comes back to then what we always talk about, which is not just having customized programming, because of the fact that some people are going to have limitations and weaknesses that need to be brought up to minimize the risk of injury. But also it's about like not just customized programming, but being able to identify these things. And that comes from education, which a lot of people don't have.
Yes, I think the gym is so important, and I will never say don't go to the gym because I think you're an idiot and that you shouldn't go train because you're going to hurt yourself. It's do it right.
Yeah.
Do it slow. Teach yourself how to move and how to get your body to move properly. And don't get me wrong, there's still exercises that I back squat. Like I structurally can't do that, little things like that. But if you're going to go balls to the wall one way, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah. I also I always see it as people are going to get injured, honestly, regardless. Like, there's likelihood of getting injured everywhere.
I see an argument starting.
No. I'm just saying, like, the thing is, like, I do get, ego lifting and going too heavy, but the likelihood, like, I just always will think, like, statistically, the likelihood of somebody getting injured just because they have poor bone density, especially I'm thinking like long term wise, because they have poor bone density or like the muscle atrophy, like their likelihood of getting injured, and I don't even mean like falls or breaks, like even injured in other ways in terms of like harm to their body, because they don't strength train, like that is much more likely to happen versus someone ego lifting and hurting their back during a deadlift.
What's your opinion on that?
I think that if that was correct, then there wouldn't be so many avenues of exercise physiology. I think that, yes, not strength training and then getting older and then hurting yourself is a massive risk. But if you're a 20-year-old boy who's ego lifting for 10 years, you're going to hurt yourself eventually.
Yeah, I do
And
feel like
yeah.
that's an
Yeah, but there is always risk
Outliers.
of injury.
But then I know you were about to say that's an extreme case, but I actually think that happens more often than not.
My brother's one of them. He's like, not that he lives with poor form or anything like that, but over time, if you're not doing the things that reduce risk of injury.
No, I get yeah. I'm saying more of the case of this saying strength training causes injuries. So like, I mean, like in the extremities of somebody
that's what I'm
lifting
saying. Like
poor
it can,
form.
but only if you're not an idiot, which is where I started. Yeah.
We've circled back.
Yeah.
Circle back to the original part.
This is really interesting.
Yeah, I think just because I think also because I'm injured now, I'm like so lucky with my recovery because I've been strength training for so many years.
Yeah.
And I just feel so blessed to have had that happen. And I will always strength train because of the idea of it benefiting me for the rest of my life.
Yep. That's what I try and sell.
I feel like you guys, you're on the same page, but there's just like little bits and pieces you probably both see
And
in your
so
fields.
fair because your field is completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, sorry, next one.
Okay. This is exciting because I don't know what we're actually
It's
about
like
to talk
a
about.
present.
I reckon you said that like 4 times today.
Every episode.
Okay. This is so funny. What made you think
What is
about
it?
this? Protein is the most important thing to focus on with your nutrition.
I think it was a conversation someone had or you and I had or saw it on Instagram.
Okay, so protein is the most important thing to focus on with your nutrition. So I'm going to like call myself out here. You guys would have heard me say a million times, and I will continue to say this, protein is the most important macro. And I say that because of the type of clients that we work with and the type of goals that they have. In terms of though, is protein the most important thing to focus on with nutrition? As a blanket statement and as a whole, I think it actually depends on where you're at and what your goal is. I think people, the thing with protein and the reason why protein has blown up is because it actually is proven that I think it's 80% of people don't meet their daily protein requirements. And because of that, it has been blown up, which I think is a good thing because people are more focused on it now than they've ever been. And it's really important for hormone health, for recovery, or building muscle, maintaining muscle mass. But I would also then argue, so are the other macros. So is protein the most important? No. Is protein the most important for your goal? Well, it depends what your goal is.
And like you said, a lot of our clients, they come to us wanting to tone up and lean out, and that's increase muscle mass and decrease
Body fat, yeah.
body fat. And to increase muscle mass, you need protein and you need to be having adequate amount of protein. But in order, you also need to be training hard at the gym.
Yeah.
And without carbs, you're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. And then your
And
fat's
then your fats, you need to be able to cognitively understand your life, and your hormones need to work and your organs need to all work together, which is what fats do. So everything is important. But yes, protein goal, I understand.
I was sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I do feel like as well though, I stand by what I said just before, which is like, it's amazing that it's fantastic that protein is blown up and that it's something people focus on. But I actually it just jigged my memory on something Roberta and I were talking about, I think last week, which is protein has blown up so much that now we're at a point where people are so focused on it that they're forgetting about everything else.
Yeah, I think I just remembered that was the conversation.
Yeah.
And it was in terms of people heading into different extremities, because firstly it was protein. Now it's fiber. Everyone is obsessed with fiber, which granted, it's all over my
I
feed.
haven't even seen that.
And the thing is, I totally understand fiber is phenomenal. And people also like the way that they're not getting enough protein. Pretty sure the average, I think it's the average American, could be wrong though, is not getting enough fiber in their diet. So there's,
That checks out.
which checks out completely. But I think it's just, it's going from one extremity to the other, and it's just like, why can't Like, let's look at things in a whole.
Yeah.
Rather than marketing one thing. And
Yeah, exactly. But it's also coming from a place of a lot of foods that are convenience are high fat, high carb.
True.
So having like even like things from Coles, but like their Maccas and then all of these things, high fat, high carbs are often the things that we see in people's diets. And that's why we need to stress protein, because that is also important. But what you were saying, like why are we extreming? One is not more important than the other.
Yeah.
We need to have that balanced.
You want to just make sure that, like, as a listener, if you're sitting here kind of going, oh, that's me, like I am following the trends, I am probably just thinking too much about one thing and not the other. What my recommendation or suggestion is, don't follow the trend and think about one thing and then drop that for the next thing and then drop that for the next thing, because you're going to be constantly ping-ponging around. You're better off to, if you're going to focus on protein, okay, can we learn a little bit more about what carbs and fats do and how to also integrate those? Because a trend is a trend for a reason, but also even if a trend is a good one, you just become too hyperfixated on it.
Yeah, I like that.
I agree.
Next.
How many have we got left?
I've got 2 more. Cool. Let's get through these. Alrighty. So I've got high cortisol is bad for women, so you can't train because it raises your cortisol.
Oh, we've spoken about this.
Guys, you need cortisol. You need it.
Okay, so first of all, please, okay, I might butcher this. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but cortisol is the thing that wakes you up, yes? Yes, thank you. Because I was like, is it the one that makes you go to sleep?
Well, you get a
Absolutely not.
spike, yeah.
Yeah, so your cortisol spikes, which initiates your body to wake up. Without that, I don't really know how that's going to go. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, like, you need cortisol more than you think, and that's why it's part of the human body. Like, I feel like cortisol, and I've seen this especially fitness influencers, they like talk about how to lower your cortisol and stress relieving foods and all these things. But the thing is, like, when it comes to the management of stress hormone, it's actually very important for a lot of things, but it shouldn't be demonized just because stress is usually where people, like, I think it comes back to a personal opinion. I think it comes back to like how stress makes people feel, so that they automatically demonize it and think it's an association thing. Yeah.
Well, first of all, most of the time the body produces things that are necessary.
Well, good call on most of the time, because why do we need an appendix?
No, there's been studies showing that it's actually it does something. It like is like the training camp for like the white blood cells, and it teaches them to become more efficient and what to take on as you get older.
That's so interesting. So, but people can live without it.
But you can live without it. But you can also live without like half of your liver. So
yeah,
but you wouldn't want to.
No,
so
it's true.
Live without an eyeball. Like anyway, I digress. When
so funny.
I work with a lot of clients, chronic fatigue clients, and they have the opposite end of the spectrum, and they have low cortisol, and that has let them so far down one end of the spectrum. Whereas yes, cortisol can be bad in massive amounts, but it can also be not deadly, but really bad in low amounts as well. And that's why it's really important that we have the balancing of that nervous system, so that our body knows how to manage our sympathetic and parasympathetic drive, so that our cortisol ebbs and flows rather than is consistent or it's non-existent, because it can impact how your joints feel. It can impact your ability to fall asleep, even like you cannot fall asleep even though you are so tired, and how you function in day-to-day society, and your cognitive ability and your concentration and reaction time, and it just affects so much. And I currently have a client who has very, very, very decreased cortisol. She doesn't even like remotely meet the criteria for it, and not the criteria, the baseline or whatever it is. And she is so unwell because of it. Whereas if she was to go the other way, she could also become really unwell.
Really unwell,
and it's just about balancing all of these things out, and how can we work with our bodies in order to balance it out.
I'm just staring at you because I think you articulated that perfectly.
Literally,
to the point where I actually don't think I need to add anything to that.
Yeah, these guys don't get to see my ex-phys size very often.
I'm just like, no, it's great.
Star-eyed.
Yeah, like that's, I think you just the way you articulated that, I'm like, that makes so much sense. And I feel that the audience would understand that. But I guess what we're talking about too, it just comes back to like extremes.
Just balance, guys.
Yeah. And also understanding that certain foods or certain things you do, it's not going to change it. It's the overview of your entire life.
It's about your nervous system and your nervous system's ability to adapt and regulate itself back to baseline, because how you're feeling doesn't necessarily represent how your nervous system is responding.
Next one. She did nail that. Very well articulated, like you said.
Is this the last one?
Stretching reduces muscle soreness.
Stretching reduces muscle soreness. Oh, I feel like this is another hill that I'm going to fucking die on.
Because I know you're quite big on stretching.
Yeah. I just said in the last episode that I hardly stretch.
I swear you're quite big on stretching.
Like telling people to?
Telling people to stretch. I remember you ran a stretch session. I remember when I did it, you're like, this is really important. Which, like, it's a great tool.
I feel like you might
Selective hearing me yet again.
You even listen to the words.
You might be making that up. Like, don't get me wrong, stretching's important.
Yeah.
But I've never really fixated on it. I think my thing is though,
You're right. Selective hearing completely.
I did run
and entirely.
I did run a stretch session, but the reason that I did that and the reason that I've spoken about stretching in the past is because not enough people do it. That's so hypocritical of me, all of us. And all of you. But also I think like because people don't relax enough. And so when we ran that stretch session, it was more about getting people to actually slow down, get in control of their body, get in control of their breathing, to, as we were just talking about, regulate their nervous system, all the things. In terms of what was the thing? It was
reducing muscle soreness.
Like, look, it's an element, but it's not the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think, because the thing is as well, like stretching's one element, active recovery is another element. And when I say active recovery, it's not just your walking and all that, and your saunas and all the things, but it's like, you know, like nutrition, foam rolling and
your sleep.
And then it's your sleep, then it's your nutrition, then it's your hydration, because people don't realize how much hydration plays a massive role in how the body functions and the way that the body moves. And even the way that we can lubricate through our muscles and joints. Hydration's a massive part for that. So would I say that it helps? Well, yeah, but so does everything else. It's like everything together.
And I would say that even if it did help with muscle soreness, people aren't stretching properly anyway.
Oh, it's so
like
true.
Physiologically anyway. So what you're doing, they're like, oh, this feels tight. I'll stretch it for 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, that feels better. It's like,
I think that's like what's the word when you in your
it's
brain,
a placebo.
Because that's the thing, like it's actually it's people say, and even growing up we were told, you know, like 30 to 45 seconds, it's not enough.
30 to 45 seconds I would rather a client do. 30 seconds is when the body, because we're literally elongating the muscle fibers, the body starts freaking out. So there's little cells that are going, shit, the muscle's going to snap.
Yeah, and
we need to save it. And that's why as you hold a stretch for longer, you're able to go deeper into it.
Yeah.
Because the body is able to relax and elongate those muscle fibers a lot more. So you need to be doing, and the studies unfortunately show that 4 minutes per muscle group in total is the effectiveness. Like that's how much you need to do of it.
Yeah. And nobody's doing
and that's so much. That's so much. I'd rather just be I'd rather just be immobile, like, to be honest.
I remember studying that at uni and I remember not paying attention, so thanks for clarifying that one. Just last one, who was it that did it last?
I did the last one.
I can do it. Cool. All right, last one. Here we go.
Can you read it?
You shouldn't train your petrol. Oh, you shouldn't train on your period. That looks like the word petrol to me.
Yeah, I get you.
You shouldn't train on your period. Okay, so this one's actually a really interesting one because once again, a little while ago, this seemed to be a big thing, or at least it was on my feed. And there was a lot of people coming out saying that on your period, we need to cycle sync and change the way we train and lower your training. And also for a while there were some studies that came out that actually were in favor of this. And I even remember a few years ago, because obviously we're evidence-based, so we go with what is the evidence at the time.
The evidence is showing, yeah.
And I even remember a few years ago, I started teaching this to my clients because of the fact that that was the new information that we got. The more studies they did, the more research they did, the more that people spoke about this, the more we realized that it's actually not as important as you think. I would argue it's probably not important at all unless you're actively suffering with like issues with training on your cycle. But basically what was going on is they were saying that on your period, you should lower your training intensity and volume, that you should change the way that you're training. There's a bunch of things that you should deload on your training weeks.
Yeah, it was like do Pilates on your training weeks, or just go for a walk, or like do different things. And I think that, again, it's going back to extremes of like this week you do this week you do that. And like you're not going to make progress if you're continually chopping and changing. But also, yes, it's a month by month basis for each woman.
Well, and sometimes not even that, you know, like everyone's cycle is different.
Yeah.
And some people get, you know, really, really big body changes and symptoms for around their period. Like I even know I forget what it's called, but I've had a couple of clients that have that
PMDD.
PMDD. Yep. I actually thought I had that for a while, but PMDD is basically where like you go into this like depression and your body kind of not shuts down, but I would say that you're just at your weakest point.
And you're in a lot of pain
and
as
you're
well.
in a lot of pain. And then you get people that have endometriosis and PCOS and all like there is way too many things that variables is the word I'm looking for. There are way too many variables from woman to woman for us to be able to turn around and say, this is what you need to do when you're on your period. And rather, the best advice is listen to your body, work with your coach, and have a look over a couple of cycles at what feels the most manageable over that time.
Exactly. And like even for me, some cycles might be good, some might be bad. Like if I tell a client, hey, just give it a go, and they go, holy shit, I can't. You tried, you had to think about it. Like the next month might be better.
But I also know some of my clients that have like hit their personal best on their period.
Yeah.
Or the week before.
Yeah, it's very different.
I just remembered that I haven't had a period in months.
Comes with the territory.
No, I know, but like I just thought about that and I was like, I imagine if you really did utilize your training and nutrition around your cycle, like, and then your body changes or you do get pregnant, like then what?
Yeah.
It's not important. Do you know what? I need to shout out a coach.
Okay.
So I think her username is Sheridan Skyfit. Do you know who I'm talking about? Sheridan?
Kind of, actually. I think I do.
I think her name's Sheridan Skyfit. I can't remember what her actual username is, but anyway, she does a lot of deep diving in her posts and her content with evidence-based and actual research and facts and percentages and everything you need to know in the content around women training on their period and this whole concept of cycle syncing. And I actually genuinely recommend that you go check her content out if you want to learn more about this stuff, because she's taken the time to really deep dive into it too.
Yeah, beautiful.
Love it. Well, thanks for joining, guys. Let us know in the comments as well if you have any other myths.
Yeah, myths.
Anything else you've heard that, you know, you'd like to debunk as well, because we'd love to do another episode on it.
Yeah, perfect.